What if everything you've been told about success was designed to keep you obedient? What if from the moment you were born, society began placing you on a path that someone else created? A path where you're taught what to think, where to go, what success looks like, and when you're allowed to stop. Think about it. You are born. You go to school. You get a job. You work for 40 or 50 years. You retire. Then eventually, your life ends. For billions of people, that's the entire script. No questions asked, no deviations, no alternatives considered, and if you challenge that path, people often call you unrealistic, irresponsible, or even crazy. But why? Why is one life path considered normal, while every other path is considered risky? Today, we're exploring a controversial question. Are we being raised like sheep? Not in the sense that there's some secret organization controlling every detail of your life, but in the sense that modern systems often reward obedience more than independent thinking. This is Future Elite, and today we're diving into one of the biggest questions of modern society. Let's begin. The first thing that happens after you're born is that people start planning your future. Parents ask questions like, what school will they go to? What career will they choose? What kind of life will they have? Notice something interesting. Very few people ask, how can this child become truly free? Instead, society focuses on preparing children to fit into existing systems. From a young age, children are taught rules. Sit still, be quiet, follow instructions, raise your hand before speaking, stay in line, wait your turn. Of course, rules are important. A society without rules would be chaos. But many critics argue that schools often prioritize conformity over creativity. Think about some of history's greatest innovators. Many challenged conventional thinking. Many questioned authority. Many refused to follow the crowd. Yet in school, questioning the system itself is often discouraged. The goal becomes getting good grades, not necessarily developing independent thought. The message becomes clear. Follow instructions and you'll be rewarded. Break from the group and you may be punished. This pattern continues throughout life. Many education systems around the world were heavily influenced by industrial-era needs. Factories needed workers. Workers needed discipline. Workers needed punctuality. Workers needed obedience. And schools often reflected those priorities. Students sit in rows. A bell tells them when to start. A bell tells them when to stop. Subjects are divided into fixed periods. Performance is measured through standardized tests. Sound familiar? Some critics say it resembles factory training. The goal wasn't necessarily to create entrepreneurs, inventors, or leaders. The goal was to create reliable workers, people who could perform tasks consistently. Again, this doesn't mean schools are evil. Education provides valuable knowledge. It teaches literacy, mathematics, science, and communication. But the question remains, does the system encourage independent thinking enough? Or does it mostly reward compliance? Because when people spend 12 or more years learning to follow instructions, that mindset often carries into adulthood. After school comes the next stage, work. Most people spend decades working, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, sometimes more. And many never stop to ask a simple question: why am I doing this? For some, work is fulfilling. They love their careers. They find purpose in what they do. But for millions of others, work becomes survival. Wake up, commute, work. Come home exhausted, sleep, repeat, week after week, year after year. Imagine if someone described this lifestyle to an alien. Work for 40 years, so that one day you can finally enjoy life. Wouldn't that sound strange? Many people postpone their dreams. Travel later. Enjoy life later. Start a business later. Learn new skills later. Everything gets pushed into the future. And before they know it, decades have passed. This isn't because people are lazy. It's because the system encourages stability above all else. Take fewer risks, stay comfortable, keep going. Don't ask too many questions. The machine needs workers. and workers who follow the script are often easier to manage than people who create their own path. One of the most powerful ideas in modern society is the illusion of choice. You can choose your clothes, choose your phone, choose your favorite brands, choose your entertainment. But when it comes to the biggest decisions in life, many people follow almost identical paths. School, work, retirement, the details may change. The structure often remains the same. Think about how rarely alternative lifestyles are discussed. Building your own business, living minimally, working remotely from around the world, creating digital income, homesteading, financial independence. These options exist, but they're rarely presented as mainstream choices. Instead, many people are taught there's only one safe path. Get good grades, get a good job, stay there, retire. The problem is that this path isn't guaranteed anymore. The world is changing rapidly. Technology is changing jobs. Artificial intelligence is transforming industries. The economy is evolving. Following the crowd may no longer be the safest option. In fact, it could become the riskiest. Fear is one of the strongest tools for controlling behavior. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of losing security. Many people stay in situations they dislike because they're afraid of uncertainty. A job they hate, a city they dislike, a life they never chose. Fear whispers, what if it doesn't work? What if people judge you? What if you fail? And so people stay where they are, not because they're happy, but because they're comfortable. The system doesn't need chains. Sometimes fear does the job perfectly. When enough people become afraid of taking risks, they become easier to guide, easier to predict, easier to control. In the past, people followed the crowd in their local communities. Today, the crowd exists online. Social media has created digital herds, millions of people chasing trends, following influencers, copying opinions, repeating ideas, sometimes without questioning them. Algorithms reward conformity. Popular opinions spread. Unpopular opinions disappear. People become afraid to think differently, afraid of criticism, afraid of cancellation, afraid of standing alone. Yet every major breakthrough in history began with someone standing apart from the crowd. Independent thinking is uncomfortable, but it is often where innovation begins. The challenge is learning how to think for yourself in a world constantly telling you what to think. Another reason some people compare society to a flock of sheep is financial dependence. Many individuals depend entirely on a single source of income. One employer, one paycheck, one system. If that income disappears, everything becomes uncertain. This creates vulnerability. When people are financially dependent, they often have fewer options, fewer choices, less freedom. This is why many successful entrepreneurs emphasize financial education. Understanding money changes everything. When you learn about investing, saving, business, and creating multiple income streams, you gain more control over your future. The goal isn't becoming rich for the sake of luxury. The goal is freedom, the ability to choose. Because true freedom begins when your survival isn't controlled by a single source. Humans are social creatures. For thousands of years, being accepted by the group increased survival. Being rejected could be dangerous. That instinct still exists today. We naturally want approval. We naturally seek belonging. That's why following the crowd feels comfortable. The crowd provides validation, safety, security. But growth often requires leaving the crowd, learning new skills, taking calculated risks, questioning assumptions, thinking independently. The people who change industries, build companies, create inventions, and transform society rarely achieve those things by copying everyone else. They succeed because they see opportunities others miss. And opportunities often exist where the crowd isn't looking. One of society's biggest promises is retirement. Work hard now, enjoy life later. That's the deal. But many people spend their healthiest years waiting for a future that isn't guaranteed. Life is unpredictable. Nobody knows how much time they have. That's why some experts argue that balance matters. Building a future is important, but living today is important too. Many people reach retirement and realize they spent decades postponing happiness. The goal shouldn't be to sacrifice your entire life for retirement. The goal should be creating a life worth living along the way, a life with purpose, freedom, growth, meaning, not just survival. So, are we actually sheep? Not exactly. Humans are far more complex than that. Most systems exist because they solve real problems. Schools educate people. Businesses create jobs. Governments provide structure. Society needs organization. The issue isn't that these systems exist. The issue is whether we participate consciously or unconsciously. A sheep follows without thinking. A free thinker asks questions. A sheep accepts every rule automatically. A free thinker evaluates whether a rule makes sense. A sheep follows the crowd because everyone else is doing it. A free thinker chooses their path intentionally. The difference isn't the system. The difference is awareness. If you want to avoid herd mentality, start with these principles. First, question assumptions. Ask why things are done a certain way. Second, read widely. Expose yourself to different ideas. Third, learn financial literacy. Understand how money works. Fourth, develop valuable skills. Skills create options. Options create freedom. Fifth, think long-term. Don't let short-term comfort destroy long-term opportunities. Sixth, spend time alone. Some of the best thinking happens in silence. Finally, take responsibility. Freedom requires responsibility. You can't control everything, but you can control your decisions. And those decisions shape your future. The world will always offer a script. Go here, study this, work there, retire then, follow the path. For some people, that path is exactly right, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the danger comes when people follow the script without ever questioning whether it aligns with their own goals. The purpose of this video isn't to tell you to reject society. It's to encourage you to think, to ask questions, to become conscious of the choices you're making. Because the moment you start thinking independently, you stop moving with the herd. You begin designing your own future. And that may be the greatest form of freedom that exists. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and join Future Elite for more videos that challenge conventional thinking and help you build a stronger, smarter, and more independent future. Thanks for watching. And remember, the crowd follows paths. Leaders create them.